The coffee shop door chimed at exactly 6 in the morning, and Olivia Morgan looked up from wiping down the espresso machine to see a man in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit stride through. Phone pressed to his ear, his dark hair slightly disheveled as though he had been running his fingers through it repeatedly. "I understand the concern, but the acquisition needs to happen by Friday or we lose the advantage," he said into the phone, his voice firm but controlled. He ended the call and approached the counter, and Olivia found herself staring directly into eyes so intensely blue they seemed almost unreal. "Good morning, what can I get you?" she asked, her practiced customer service smile in place. "Black coffee, largest size you have," he said, then paused. "Please." The addition of politeness seemed like an afterthought, but she appreciated it nonetheless. Working at the daily grind for the past 2 years had taught her to recognize the difference between those who saw service workers as invisible and those who at least tried to acknowledge their humanity. She prepared his coffee efficiently, muscle memory guiding her hands through the familiar motions. When she handed him the cup, their fingers brushed briefly, and she felt an unexpected jolt of awareness. "$3.50, she said. He pulled out his wallet and handed her a 20. "Keep the change." "That is way too much," Olivia protested immediately. "Consider it payment for being open this early when the rest of the city is still asleep," he replied, and this time there was the ghost of a smile on his face. Before she could argue further, he was gone, the door chiming again as he disappeared into the pre-dawn darkness. Olivia stared at the $20 bill in her hand, then shook her head and put the appropriate change in the tip jar she shared with her coworker. Generous tippers were nice, but she had learned the hard way not to get too comfortable with easy money. He came back the next morning at the same time, and the morning after that, by the 4th visit, Olivia had his order ready when he walked through the door. "You are either very observant or I am painfully predictable," he said, accepting the coffee with what looked like genuine appreciation. "Little bit of both, probably," Olivia replied. "Same time, same order, not hard to spot a pattern." "Fair enough." He took a sip, then looked at her with those unsettling blue eyes. "I am Marcus, by the way, Marcus Lawson." "Olivia," she said, then wondered why she felt suddenly nervous giving her name. "Nice to meet you, Olivia." He glanced at his watch, a sleek silver piece that probably cost more than she made in 3 months. "I should go. Board meeting at 7. After he left, her coworker Jenny emerged from the back room with raised eyebrows. "That guy has been coming here all week and he only ever talks to you." "He is just a regular customer," Olivia said, busying herself with restocking cups. "A regular customer who looks like he walked off a magazine cover and tips like he owns a bank," Jenny said. "You should ask him out." "Absolutely not." Olivia's response was automatic and firm. Jenny knew some of Olivia's history, but not all of it. Not the parts that still made Olivia wake up in a cold sweat sometimes, remembering the person she used to be. Not the parts that had landed her in court, mandated therapy and community service 3 years ago. Not the parts that had finally shocked her into realizing she needed to completely rebuild her life from the ground up. She had been 22 then, angry at the world, involved with people who brought out the worst in her. Shoplifting had escalated to check fraud, which had escalated to being an accomplice in a break-in she had been too high to fully remember. The judge had been surprisingly lenient, perhaps because it was her first offense and because she had broken down completely in court, genuinely horrified at what her life had become. Now, at 25, she was clean, sober, and working 2 jobs to pay off her restitution and save for the education degree she had once dreamed about. She went to therapy every week, attended her support group meetings, and kept her head down. She had built a quiet, stable life, and she was not about to jeopardize it by developing feelings for some gorgeous man in an expensive suit who probably had a perfect life and a perfect background, and would run screaming if he knew the truth about her. But Marcus kept coming back. A week became 2 weeks, then 3. Their morning exchanges grew longer, more personal. She learned he took his coffee black because he had grown up watching his grandfather drink it that way. He learned she was saving up for college. He told her about his sister who lived in Boston. She told him about her brother who she had not spoken to in 2 years because he reminded her too much of her old life. "Do you miss him?" Marcus asked one morning when the shop was empty except for the two of them. "Every day," Olivia admitted, "but some bridges you burn for good reason." "He is still in that life and I cannot go back." Marcus studied her face for a long moment. "That takes real strength, walking away from family when you need to." She felt something crack open in her chest at the understanding in his voice. "Sometimes I do not feel very strong." "Strength is not about never being scared or uncertain," Marcus said quietly. "It is about doing the hard thing anyway." Their eyes met, and Olivia felt the air between them charge with something unspoken. Her heart was pounding so hard she was certain he could hear it. The door chimed, breaking the moment, and a cluster of construction workers came in for their morning coffee. Marcus glanced at his watch and sighed. "I should go," he said, but he did not move immediately. "Olivia, would you want to have dinner with me, somewhere that is not a coffee shop at dawn?" Every self-protective instinct she had screamed at her to say no. Instead, she heard herself say, "Yes." His smile was worth the risk. "Friday night, I can pick you up at 7. She wrote her number on a napkin, her hand only shaking slightly, and watched him leave with a lightness in his step that had not been there before. Jenny practically materialized at her elbow. "Did that just happen? Did Mr. Tall, Dark, and Handsome just ask you out?" "It appears so," Olivia said, feeling dazed. "This is amazing. Where is he taking you?" "I have no idea." That thought was slightly terrifying. Friday arrived faster than Olivia expected. She stood in front of her closet in the small apartment she shared with 2 roommates, staring at her limited wardrobe with growing panic. Nothing seemed right. Everything was either too casual or too worn or had a stain she had never noticed before. Finally, she settled on a simple black dress she had bought at a thrift store last year and barely worn. It was plain but elegant, and paired with her only nice pair of heels, it would have to do. When Marcus knocked on her door at precisely 7, she opened it to find him in dark jeans and a gray button-down that made his eyes even more striking. He was holding a single white rose. "You look beautiful," he said, and the sincerity in his voice made her blush. "Thank you." "You clean up pretty well yourself," she replied, accepting the rose. He took her to a small Italian restaurant tucked away on a side street she had never noticed despite living in the city for 3 years. It was the kind of place that felt intimate and warm, with candles on every table and the smell of fresh bread and garlic filling the air. Over pasta and wine they talked. Really talked. Marcus told her about building his business from the ground up after his father had died and left him with more debt than assets. He had been 23, fresh out of business school, and determined not to let his father's legacy die. "It took 5 years of working 20-hour days and eating ramen noodles for dinner, but we turned it around," he said. "Lawson Industries is now one of the leading investment firms in the country." Olivia nearly choked on her wine. "Wait, Lawson Industries? That Lawson Industries." "You have heard of it, Marcus. Everyone has heard of it. You are on Forbes lists. You are." She trailed off, her mind reeling. "You are a billionaire." He looked uncomfortable. "Yes, technically, but I do not like to lead with that information. People treat you differently when they know." "I served you coffee for a month without knowing," she said slowly. "Exactly. You treated me like a person, not a bank account. Do you know how rare that is?" He reached across the table and took her hand. "I like who I am when I am with you, Olivia. I am just Marcus, a guy who drinks too much coffee and has terrible handwriting." She wanted to tell him then, wanted to lay out her whole messy history before this went any further. But the words stuck in her throat, trapped by fear and shame and the desperate desire to hold onto this feeling just a little bit longer. "Tell me about your family," Marcus said, changing the subject as though sensing her discomfort. So she told him about growing up with a single mother who had worked 3 jobs to keep them fed. About her older brother Daniel, who had gotten involved with gangs when he was 16. About watching her mother's heart break piece by piece as Daniel spiraled. About her mother dying of a heart attack when Olivia was 19 and how lost she had been afterward. She did not tell him about the next 3 years. Not yet. "I am sorry," Marcus said quietly. "Losing a parent is hard enough without being that young." "It was a long time ago," Olivia said, though the grief still felt fresh sometimes. They stayed at the restaurant until closing, talking and laughing and discovering the hundreds of small things they had in common. They both loved old movies and hated scary ones. They both put way too much hot sauce on everything. They both believed that morning people were superior to night owls, a controversial opinion they defended passionately. When Marcus drove her home, he walked her to her door but did not try to kiss her, just squeezed her hand and said, "I would really like to see you again." "I would like that too," she said. One date became 2, then 5, then 10. They fell into an easy rhythm, stealing moments between her work shifts and his business meetings. He brought her coffee when she worked the early morning shift. She surprised him at his office with lunch when he was too busy to leave for board meetings. 6 weeks into dating, Marcus invited her to a charity gala his company was hosting. Olivia almost said no, terrified of being thrust into his world of wealth and sophistication where she would surely be exposed as the fraud she felt like. But the hopeful look in his eyes made her agree. He sent a stylist to her apartment the day of the event, which was both overwhelming and secretly thrilling. The woman transformed her into someone Olivia barely recognized, her hair swept up elegantly, her makeup subtle but striking, her dress a deep emerald green that Marcus had apparently selected himself. When she met him at the venue, a historic hotel ballroom dripping with crystal chandeliers and opulence, his face lit up in a way that made her feel like the only woman in the world. "You are stunning," he said, offering his arm. The gala was both wonderful and terrible. Wonderful because Marcus never left her side, introducing her to people with genuine pride, making sure she felt included in conversations, bringing her champagne and telling her jokes when he sensed she was getting overwhelmed. Terrible because she felt like an imposter surrounded by people whose jewelry probably cost more than her yearly salary. People who had summer homes and trust funds and family histories that did not include criminal records. She was standing alone for a moment while Marcus spoke with a potential investor when a woman in a silver dress approached her. "You are Marcus's date," the woman said. It was not quite a question. "Yes, I am Olivia. Rebecca Hartley. I have known Marcus since college." Rebecca looked her up and down with an expression Olivia could not quite read. "You are not his usual type." "I did not realize he had a type," Olivia said carefully. "Oh, he usually dates women from similar backgrounds. You know, people who understand his world." Rebecca smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. "Not that there is anything wrong with dating outside your social class. Very progressive of him." The words hit like a slap. Before Olivia could respond, Marcus reappeared at her side, his hand immediately finding the small of her back. "Rebecca," he said coolly, "I see you have met Olivia." "Just making conversation," Rebecca said sweetly. "I should go find my husband. Lovely to meet you, Olivia." As she walked away, Olivia felt something inside her crumble. Marcus must have sensed it because he turned her to face him. "Whatever she said, ignore it. Rebecca has been bitter since I turned down her advances at a Christmas party 5 years ago." "She is right, though," Olivia said quietly. "I do not belong here, Marcus. Look around. Everyone here is like you, successful, wealthy, educated. I serve coffee for a living. I live in an apartment with 2 roommates and furniture from Goodwill. We are from different worlds." "I do not care about any of that," Marcus said fiercely. "Olivia, you are the most genuine person I have ever met. You work 2 jobs and still find time to volunteer at the community center. You remember the names of every regular customer at the coffee shop. You send half your paycheck to pay off old debts when you could just ignore them. That is who you are. That matters." Not which fork you use at dinner or whether you know the difference between a Monet and a Manet. It is more complicated than that, she whispered. Then tell me, whatever it is, we can figure it out together. She almost did. Almost spilled everything right there in the ballroom surrounded by champagne and string quartets, but fear won out. Can we just go? She asked instead. They left the gala early and Marcus drove her home in silence. When he walked her to her door, she finally turned to face him. I am sorry for ruining your event, she said. You did not ruin anything. Rebecca is a snob who needs to mind her own business. He cupped her face gently. Olivia, I am falling in love with you. I need you to know that, her breath caught. Marcus, you do not have to say it back. I just needed you to know where I stand. He kissed her forehead softly. Get some rest. We will talk tomorrow. After he left, Olivia sat on her bed and cried. She was falling in love with him too desperately and completely, and it terrified her because she knew it could not last. Eventually, he would learn the truth, and when he did, he would see her the way she saw herself, damaged and unworthy. The next morning, she went to therapy and told her counselor everything. Why have you not told him about your past? Dr. Stevens asked. Because he will leave, Olivia said. Once he knows I am a criminal, that I stole and lied and broke the law, he will realize he made a mistake. Or he might surprise you, Dr. Stevens said gently. You have been doing the work, Olivia. You have changed your life completely. You are not the same person you were 3 years ago. You deserve to be happy. You deserve love, but you cannot build a real relationship on secrets and shame. What if I tell him and he walks away? Then he was not the right person for you. But what if you tell him and he stays? That night, Olivia called Marcus and asked him to come over. Her roommates made themselves scarce, sensing something important was happening. When Marcus arrived, she had coffee waiting, more for something to do with her hands than because either of them wanted it. Thank you for coming, she said, her voice shaking slightly. Of course. You sounded serious on the phone. He sat next to her on the couch, concern clear on his face. What is going on? I need to tell you something about my past, and I need you to listen to all of it before you say anything. He nodded, his expression growing serious. Okay, so she told him. Everything? She told him about the years after her mother died, about falling in with the wrong people, about making choices she would regret for the rest of her life. She told him about the arrest, the court case, the community service and probation. She told him about getting clean and sober, about rebuilding herself piece by piece, about the shame she still carried every single day. When she finished, her face was wet with tears she had not realized she was crying. Marcus was silent, his expression unreadable. Say something, she whispered. Please? Come here, he said, and pulled her into his arms. She broke down completely then, sobbing against his chest while he held her and stroked her hair and murmured reassurances she could not quite make out through her own crying. When she finally calmed down enough to pull back and look at him, she expected to see pity or disgust. Instead, she saw something that looked like wonder. You are amazing, Marcus said. What? Olivia, do you understand what you did? You hit rock bottom and you climbed back up. You changed everything about your life. You did the hard work of becoming a better person. That is incredible. I broke the law, she said. I hurt people. I stole from people. And you have spent the last 3 years making amends for that. You have paid your debt to society legally and morally. You go to therapy. You help other people who are struggling. You work yourself to exhaustion to pay off restitution you could probably get reduced. He took her hands in his. I do not care about who you were at 22, Olivia. I care about who you are now. And the woman I know is kind and hardworking and brave as hell. You are not disgusted. No, I am in awe, he kissed her gently. Thank you for trusting me with this. Something in Olivia's chest, something that had been clenched tight for years, finally relaxed. I was so scared to tell you. I know, but we are okay. We are better than okay, he smiled at her. No more secrets. No more secrets, she promised. Over the next few months, their relationship deepened in ways Olivia had not known were possible. Marcus met her friends from her support group and treated them with the same respect and warmth he showed everyone. She met his sister Claire, who flew in from Boston and immediately declared that Olivia was the best thing that had ever happened to her brother. "He actually smiles now," Claire told Olivia over brunch while Marcus was taking a phone call. "Before you, he was all work all the time. You have made him human again." Marcus also started joining Olivia in some of her volunteer work at the community center, where she mentored teenagers who reminded her of her younger self. She was startled the first time he showed up in jeans and a t-shirt, ready to help paint the recreation room. "You do not have to do this," she said. "I want to," he replied simply. "This matters to you, so it matters to me." Watching him patiently help a 13-year-old boy fix a bike chain, she felt herself fall even more deeply in love. One evening, about 4 months into their relationship, Marcus picked her up from her closing shift at the coffee shop with an unusual request. "Come somewhere with me," he said. "Where?" "It is a surprise." He drove them to a part of the city she did not know well, stopping in front of a beautiful old building that had been converted into loft apartments. "What are we doing here?" she asked. "Just trust me," he said, taking her hand and leading her inside. They rode the elevator to the top floor and he pulled out a key to unlock one of the units. When the door swung open, Olivia gasped. The space was gorgeous, all exposed brick and high ceilings and huge windows overlooking the city. It was also completely empty. "Marcus, what is this?" "I bought it," he said, watching her face carefully. "I know your lease is up next month, and I thought maybe you would want to move in here, with me." Her heart stopped. "Move in with you? I love you, Olivia. I love you so much it sometimes physically hurts when we are apart. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep with you every night. I want to build a life with you." He stepped closer. "I know it is fast, and if you need more time, I understand, but I am sure about this. I am sure about us." "I love you too," she said, the words spilling out. "I love you so much. Yes, I want to move in with you." His kiss was filled with relief and joy and promise. They moved in together 3 weeks later. Olivia was nervous about combining their lives so completely, worried that living together would expose all her inadequacies and drive him away. Instead, it was the best decision she had ever made. They learned each other's routines and quirks. She discovered he sang in the shower, badly and enthusiastically. He discovered she talked to plants and had named all of them. They cooked together, making a mess of the kitchen more often than not. They watched movies curled up on the couch. They had their first fight about whose turn it was to do dishes and made up within an hour. They were building something real and solid and beautiful. 6 months after moving in together, Olivia got her acceptance letter from the state university for their education program. She had finally saved enough and qualified for financial aid. She ran into Marcus's home office waving the letter. I got in." He stood up so fast his chair rolled backward and caught her in his arms, spinning her around. "I am so proud of you. I start in the fall," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. "I am going to be a teacher, Marcus. I am really going to do this." "You are going to be an amazing teacher," he said with absolute conviction. That night, he took her to dinner at the same Italian restaurant where they had their first date. "I cannot believe it has only been 10 months, Olivia said. "It feels like I have known you forever." "I know what you mean. You are my best friend," Marcus said, "my partner, my home." "You are all of that for me too," she said softly. When dessert arrived, there was a small box on the plate. Olivia's heart started racing. Marcus got down on one knee beside the table, and the entire restaurant went quiet. "Olivia Morgan, you have changed my life in every possible way. You have made me laugh and challenged me and shown me what real courage looks like. You have let me love you, which is the greatest gift I have ever received." He opened the box to reveal a stunning but not ostentatious diamond ring. "Will you marry me?" "Yes," she said through happy tears. "Yes, absolutely yes." The restaurant erupted in applause as he slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her. They decided on a small wedding in the spring, just close friends and family. Claire was Olivia's maid of honor. Jenny from the coffee shop was a bridesmaid. Marcus's college roommate stood as his best man. The night before the wedding, Olivia stood in the apartment she now shared with Marcus, looking at her reflection in the mirror. The wedding dress was simple and elegant, exactly what she had wanted. In 12 hours, she would be married to the love of her life. There was a knock on the door, and she opened it to find her brother Daniel standing there. Danny. She had not seen him in over 3 years. "Hey, Liv." He looked older, tired, but also somehow lighter. "I know I am probably the last person you expected to see. How did you find me?" "I have been clean for 8 months," he said. "I am in a program doing the work like you did. I wanted to reach out sooner, but I was ashamed. Then I saw on social media that you were getting married, and I knew I had to come. I needed to tell you I am sorry for everything and that I am proud of you." Olivia felt tears spring to her eyes. "Danny, I am so glad you are here." They embraced, and it felt like coming full circle. The brother she had lost was finding his way back just as she had. "Can I come to the wedding?" he asked hesitantly. "I would love that," she said. The next day, Olivia walked down the aisle with Daniel at her side, both of them clean and sober and building new lives. When she reached Marcus, his eyes were shining with emotion. The ceremony was beautiful and personal. They wrote their own vows. Marcus promised to love her through all seasons, to be her partner and her biggest supporter, to never let her forget how strong and capable she was. Olivia promised to love him with all her imperfect heart, to be honest and brave, to build a life with him that honored both where they had come from and where they were going. When they kissed as husband and wife, Olivia felt like everything she had survived had led to this moment. Every mistake, every hard choice, every moment of doubt and fear had been worth it to arrive here. At the reception, Marcus pulled her onto the dance floor for their first dance. As they swayed to the music, he whispered in her ear, "I have something to tell you." "What?" "I know this is fast, but I have been thinking about it for a while." He pulled back to look at her. "What would you think about starting a foundation, something focused on helping people who are trying to rebuild their lives after incarceration? Job training, education support, mentorship programs." "Marcus, that would be incredible. But why?" "Because of you. Because you showed me how much courage it takes to change your life and how much people need support to do it. I want to use the resources I have to help people the way you were helped." She kissed him in the middle of the dance floor, not caring who was watching. "Have I mentioned lately that I am crazy about you? You could mention it more often," he said with a grin. 2 years later, the Lawson Foundation had helped over 500 people transition back into society successfully. Olivia ran the mentorship program while finishing her teaching degree. Marcus had stepped back from some of his business responsibilities to focus on the foundation work. They bought a house in a neighborhood with good schools, planning for the future. On their 3rd anniversary, Olivia gave Marcus a small wrapped box over breakfast. "We are doing gifts now," he asked. "You did not tell me that." "Just open it," she said, barely containing her excitement. Inside the box was a tiny pair of baby shoes and a positive pregnancy test. Marcus looked up at her with wonder written all over his face. "Really, really, we are having a baby." He gathered her into his arms, and she felt his tears on her neck. "I love you so much. You have given me everything." "We have given each other everything," she corrected. Their daughter was born in early winter, a perfect tiny human with Marcus's blue eyes and Olivia's determined chin. They named her Hope because that was what they both represented for each other. Life was not perfect. There were hard days and challenges and moments when Olivia still struggled with her past, but Marcus was always there, loving her through it, reminding her of how far she had come. And she did the same for him when work stress overwhelmed him or when he doubted himself. They built a life filled with love and purpose and joy. The coffee shop where they met closed down eventually, but they took a photo of the exterior and hung it in their home as a reminder of where it all began. Jenny remained one of Olivia's closest friends. Daniel got married and stayed sober, and his kids called Olivia and Marcus aunt and uncle. On their 5th anniversary, they went back to that same Italian restaurant. "Remember when you asked me here?" Olivia said. I was so nervous I almost knocked over my wine glass. I was terrified, Marcus admitted. I thought you might say no. Best decision I ever made, saying yes to you. Second best, Marcus corrected. The best decision you made was choosing to change your life. Everything else followed from that. She reached across the table and took his hand. You know what surprised me most about all of this? What? You said once that my history did not matter to you, but I think it does matter. It matters because it made me who I am. It taught me empathy and resilience and humility. If I had not gone through all of that, I do not think I would appreciate this life we have built as much. You are right, Marcus said thoughtfully. Your history does matter, not because it defines you, but because it shaped you. And I love every part of you, including the parts that were forged in fire. We are pretty lucky, are not we? Olivia said. The luckiest, he agreed. Years later, when Hope was old enough to understand, they told her about their story. About how they met in a coffee shop and fell in love despite coming from different worlds. About Olivia's past and how she had worked hard to change her life. About how love and commitment and honesty could build something beautiful and lasting. So Mommy made mistakes but fixed them? Hope asked. Exactly, Marcus said. Your mother is the bravest person I know. And Daddy loved Mommy even when she was scared to tell him the truth, Hope continued. Especially then, Olivia said. Real love means accepting the whole person, past and present and future. Hope seemed satisfied with this answer and ran off to play, leaving Olivia and Marcus on the porch of their home, watching the sunset. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I had not walked into that coffee shop? Marcus asked. Sometimes, Olivia admitted. But I think we would have found each other somehow. Some things are just meant to be. I like that idea, he said, pulling her close. They sat there as the sky turned shades of pink and gold, grateful for the journey that had brought them together and excited for all the years still ahead. Olivia had learned that your past did not have to define your future, that love could heal old wounds, and that sometimes the most broken things could be put back together into something even more beautiful than before. She had been terrified that her history would drive Marcus away. Instead, it had made him love her more deeply, understanding the full measure of her strength and courage. Together, they had built a life neither of them could have imagined, filled with purpose and passion and a love that grew stronger with each passing day. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Olivia thought about the scared 25-year-old girl who had served coffee and dreamed of a different life. She wished she could go back and tell that girl that everything would work out, that love was possible, that she deserved happiness and would find it in the most unexpected way. But she could not go back, only forward. And forward was exactly where she wanted to go, hand in hand with the man who had seen all of her, the dark and the light, and chosen to love her anyway. That was the greatest gift of all, being fully known and fully loved. Everything else was just details in the beautiful story they were writing together, one day at a time.